Believe it or not, Blender has a video editor, and we're going to be playing with it in this video. So let's go ahead and just get started. We're going to go to File, New, and click Video Editing. Now, you can also click the plus sign over here, go to Video Editing this way, creating a new Video Editor tab. Cool. So it comes in with the file browser here. This might be something you want to use. I personally don't because I have two monitors. So I like to switch this over to the graph editor so I can play around with the curves and stuff here. So I can press N, get rid of that little panel over there. Good to go. Now, I'm going to bring over my browser window here, or file browser, and go to my assets, and let's see what we got. Let's do video. Okay, and so I got some videos in here that I've previously rendered. Let's toss this one in. I'm going to toss it into channel 2. You can drag and drop from your file browser. I'm going to put this off on my other screen, so if you see me pulling stuff in, that's how I'm doing it. I'm just dragging and dropping. Audio, photos, whatever, right? Video. And so we got this one now. Let's go ahead and check it out. Let me actually turn off audio so that you guys don't hear it for now. All right. So there we go. It comes in like so. You can press play. Yeah. There's a video track, an audio track. You can grab these both holding shift, press G, do this number to move it around, right click, cancel, left click. Okay. Cool. Control Z, go back. All that good stuff. Now, this is where things are going to get interesting. So I'm going to take another video, drop it on top. Okay. So now it's up here. All right. Or press, well, I don't have to press play. Let's just drag. We can kind of scroll through this, right? You can see that this one, right, covers up the one below it. So it's like the layer system in Photoshop. But basically, grab it, select it. And over here on this side, you'll notice we have blending methods as well. So I can select any of these blending methods, or you can hold Control and mouse wheel, and you can just kind of scroll through them and see what you end up with here. So maybe I want to do something like that. Yeah, I'll go with that. So now when we play this back, get something like that going on, right? All right, cool. So there's a lot of different things you can do. Where do we start, right? So let's go ahead and add a background to this. So we're going to add a background color here, and it just happens to come in wherever my timeline's at. So I'm going to put it at the front, and we can click here. And believe it or not, this is a handle that you click once. You actually press G and move it around, but you have to click here again to unselect it. Otherwise, you'll keep moving it around. So cool. All right. I want this to be shorter, and when it's playing here, you can see it just keeps going. So I'm going to show you guys something kind of interesting. I'm going to bring it down like this. We can press S, and it doesn't scale it, but what it does is it shifts the clip. So you can shift clips around a little bit inside of that little area where it's supposed to be playing. That's something you can do. I'm going to Control Z back though. But we can also cut this by placing this wherever we need it and then pressing K. When this is selected, press K. There you go. Cuts it. Okay, so that's how you can do things like that. Now let's go ahead and Control Z back one more time. There's another option here that we can do. Go to time, and we can change the speed factor here, and we can push it down. Now, a little bit of a warning here, playing with the speed setting here like this. Sometimes it can make the video pretty choppy. I think Blender has a little bit of an issue with timing. I'm going to move all these just forward a little bit. But it seems that it doesn't handle switching the speed here very well. There's other ways of doing it, such as using an effect strip and adding a speed control, which is nice, except on Blender 3.3 here, I was getting some weird jitteriness going on. It has something to do with, I think, the buffer slash proxies. Okay, so if the buffer is just kind of like how many frames are being rendered ahead of time or whatever, but the proxy is basically the preview image here. However, translated over into the actual outputted render, which I don't, or like when you try to render the video, I don't understand why or how that happened or occurred, but that's what happened. So this one just seems to be doing fine now, so we're not going to mess with it. But the reason why the black background is here, because sometimes you need like a little break every now and then, right? So you can fade in and out to just pure black and then have titles come up or whatever the case may be. And so you can do that, but if you didn't have this here, you would just end up with a transparent background. And you can't really blend on that real well, so those blend methods. All right, anyways, so what if you do want to have these things fade in and fade out? So we're going to fade this one in and out. And we can do this by going and right-clicking on it after selecting it. We can fade in and fade out, or just fade in or just fade out, whatever the case. We're going to do both on this one. And so after we do this, you can see the graph editor comes alive, and it's what it's done here is at the very start, it's put a keyframe. You see over here, opacity, it's set to 0, and the little diamond indicates it's keyframed. It's a circle, it's not. So, and then as we move forward, you can see the next keyframe pops up right here, and it's set to 1. So it's done this automatically for us, and it went ahead and called it a blend opacity. Right? We can actually remove these by right-clicking and clearing them as well. But if we do fade it, with this here, we can actually adjust it quite easily. So we could select everything just using drag, right? Tilde key. We can frame the selected, frame all, or go to the current frame. So we're going to frame selected, and you'll see this number happen, which is pretty cool. We can mouse wheel in and out, doesn't matter. But we can also hold down Control and middle mouse, and we can do this number. Right? So this is really useful when you're trying to make finer adjustments, and sometimes the graph is all crazy like. So just keep those little methods in mind when you're trying to use this thing. All right. So you can of course adjust this however you see fit, but you might want to say like make this run a little bit longer. So I can grab this and press G. I can move it and rotate it by hitting R or S to scale. And so that's all good. You can also hit G and then X, so you can move only left and right, or you can hit G and Y, move up and down. In this case, I'm just going to move it over there. And so now we get this going on. These right here, okay, if we were to right click, we can actually change the handle type. Okay, we can also use the V key, or you can change the interpolation mode as well. So you can use things like elastic or bounce or whatever it may be. Right. And there's, last but not least, up here at the top, we're not going to go over this in detail on this one, but the add F curve modifier. So when you press N again, if you had an F curve for one of these little points or whatever the case may be, you can actually adjust it here as needed. And so just keep an eye out for that. All right. So when we take a look at this video now, you can see clear as day. Bam. Okay, fades in, fades out. Good. If we want to add titles, we can do that. We can add text right here. So we can just type in some text, change the font, whatever the case may be, do all that fun stuff. No, we're not going to go over all that in detail, but this is going to work very similar to dropping in images. All right, so that's what we're doing next. Let me go ahead and browse to a folder where I have some images at. So go ahead and pull in this one. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this one. And we'll go ahead and pull in this one as well. Why not? Okay, so this is very simple. We can just put these on different lines if needed. And all I'm going to do is select all of them. And I'm going to hold shift and select all of those. And now I can press G. We can make them all the same length. Right click, fade, fade in, fade out. Just like that, done. And generally speaking, you want to start bottom here because this is everything's going to start going in this direction. So you can line these up. Now we have set it up so that they fade in and swap like so, right? And if we want to make them longer, of course, we can always grab them, grab those little handles. Here's something interesting. When you press G again, you can see that the curve doesn't move, so you got to actually clear it. You don't necessarily have to clear it, but you can just fade it in and out again. That's the easiest way to do it. So I just line them up like that. All right. You could set up all kinds of crazy blending methods, but we're not going to worry about that right now. It's outside the preview range, so if we were to hit play right now, it's just going to stop and start over right there. Preview range you can do pretty much automatically just by like selecting something, right clicking, set preview range, and there you go. Now you'll actually play in only that area, which is cool. But if you want to turn that off, just uncheck the little block down here, turn it off. However, when we go to render this, what's going to end up happening is that it's only going to render to frame 250, and so we can actually just press A to select everything, and now we can go to view here, and under range, set frame range to strips. Okay, and then it's all good to go. You can see it's adjusted to 429 now, so that's good. Pull this out more if we wanted to. Just put it right there. Gets a little bit better than this though. We can actually add in whatever else we might want. So if you have a bunch of sound effects or whatever the case may be, add those as well. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna pull up some sound effects real quick. I don't know what I'm gonna pull in, but we're gonna see what happens. Okay. City traffic with birds. Nah, we'll do ambient effects. A basketball game. Okay, I got all kinds. I'm on the other screen right now. Sorry, but all kinds of weird sound effects in that folder. We're gonna skip that one. Go to something else. Squeaky chicken toy. Okay, I got too much here. We'll pull it over so you guys can look. Take a little second here. Cinematic ambient samples. Okay, lunar. Did they say lunar? Yeah, lunar. Ambience. 43 seconds. Okay, we'll do that one, I guess. We'll just pull the one in since it took so long, but let's hear what this sounds like. I'm gonna turn the audio on now for you guys, all right? Yeah, definitely creepy. I'll give it that. So we can keyframe this as well. And so over here at the start of this thing, with it selected, the volume's at 1 right now. We can set it to 0, hit I right here, or click the little button. You can just hit I, it's easier. And then that's going to set it to 0. We can have it come in a little bit. I don't want it to be as loud as 1, just real faint maybe. Okay, so you can see I can adjust that. And all the way back here, let's go ahead and just cut it right here. So K, press X, you can delete. And we can go ahead and add in an extra keyframe right here, and then we'll fade it out to 0 again. And press I, keyframe it. All right, so you can see what's going on. The keyframes are actually way over here, so we just press A, tilde key, view selected, frame selected. All right, and that's going to work out. So we can tweak this however we see fit, and maybe bring it down a little bit or whatever the case. And so I'm pretty happy with this. I'm not really looking to modify this much. Just kind of looking it over, I guess. But but anyways, so when you change these, by the way, if you move them, you can see the graph down here. That's what's going on. Also, if you want to line certain things up to the audio in a track, you can always just click display waveform right here, which I feel like it should be on by default, but there you go, display waveform. There is that. There's also a few other things we can do, such as, let's say we want to add an adjustment layer. So adjustment layers are really cool. I'm going to put it up at the top here. Bring it on out to the side. And so there's a couple different ways you can add modifiers. You can add them right here. And you'll actually have to go to that menu anyways, but also add them over here under strip. So you can add modifiers right here as well. Okay. We're going to go over here though and do it. So we're going to add just do hue saturation or hue correct, curves, color balance. So nothing too crazy. You can get some basic editing. Nothing fancy. Brightness and contrast though, perhaps. And then you can just tweak things as you see fit. So if you want to change the brightness and the contrast, you can make things pop a little bit more. Give them a little bit more like so. All right. I believe you can fade this in and out as well, but I'm not real sure. Yeah, you can. And so it's going to go from its kind of regular. Okay. Anyways, we don't really need that, but I just wanted to show you. So, all right. And then I'll bring that right out to the back here. So these should all stop at basically the same area. You can mouse wheel here as well. And you can also Alt and mouse wheel to change the timeline ever so slightly. Right? Okay. So now, middle mouse click to get over. Okay. Oh, what happened there? I think it beeped too late. Okay. Sometimes you can slide audio by accident, so be careful with that. When you press the S key, you can slide things. You don't want to get them misaligned and all that fun stuff. Anyway, so that looks good to me. And there's certainly more stuff you can do. Absolutely. Just keep in mind anything in here, you can actually pretty much can press I on most anything, add keyframes to it. Something I didn't go over that I really wanted to touch on, I just completely forgot about, is the fact that you can go under transforms. There's also color, video, crop stuff, but position, rotation, and scale here. So this clip, I'm selecting it, I'm going to press I, and I. So we have a starting point here for this section. And this one, at the very end of it, okay, kind of hard to tell where the end is sometimes, but what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to come up here. You notice how it's highlighted? This is what's kind of cool. You can actually say, like, maybe we want to zoom this in slightly. Okay. I don't think it's adjusting it though. Oh, we can't see it because it's fading out. Whoops. We're going to zoom it in slightly, so it's kind of hard to see this one, but and we're going to move it on X, so G and X. Scale it up a little so that it's in the frame. That's the most important part. It's still in the frame. Just needs a slight little bit of movement to it. Okay, so now we can go ahead and press I on this again. Not worried about the opacity. I'm one frame off, I think. So you can always line things better with the curves, but because it turns transparent, it doesn't really matter. But now you can see that it actually does, in fact, move a little bit right here. Okay. And it actually starts a little bit too small. So here's a trick. Up here, you can turn on a frame overlay just in case you need it. It's really hard to see some of this in here right now, but I want this to be fully encompassed from the start. So we're going to actually scale this one up a bit more. Oh, I messed up. I didn't keyframe it. You got to re-keyframe it when you do this. I didn't need a keyframe. Turn that off. Right here at the end, I'm going to scale it up a little bit more. Just move it over. I really should have just done that a little bit different. You can play around with this however you want, but basically at the very beginning of it, you might want to have it larger if you want to do like a side scroll basically, and just move it to one side and then just press I on everything. And then as it moves to the other side, you might just press G and X and move it like so, and then also press I on everything. Okay. So now it's just going to scroll back and forth basically, right? More or less. Pan, scroll, pan, whatever. But you can also do zoom in, zoom out, and you can also add rotations. So this one here, this one, if I was to go ahead and press S, Move it down a little bit like so. Press I. Move it over here. And at the same time, just slightly rotate it. That's why I'm doing all of them at the same time, because you can scale, rotate, move it. But I did that the wrong way. I didn't move it yet. Messing up on all my keyframes here. So that's all right. We'll just go with what we got. Down a little bit and rotate it a bit. Just press I. Okay, so that'll rotate slightly, which is nice. And we can do that probably to this one as well. So we could probably just rotate it a little tiny bit. And we'll do that to this one. Wait for those to turn yellow so I know it's time to that. It might be a way to key this differently, but this is what I've been doing. So there we go. So now we can see what's going to happen. Let's do a quick preview on it. Let's see if it all plays through pretty good, which it should. All right. Yep. Lunar noises, I think, work here. It's not too bad. All right, cool. Let's export this thing now. This is what we're going to do. We already have it set up for the most part, except we've extended this a little bit. So press A, select view. I always think it's under select, range, set frame. Range, okay, we're good. So we're at 451 now. And it's set to PNG. This will export a bunch of, okay, first of all, let's talk about one thing real quick. We're starting at frame 1, ending at frame 461. We're going to output to a folder, okay? So we're going to go to the desktop, and that's our folder, the desktop, okay? I'm going to set this to a different format. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can render, different file formats you can render with. So if you want to use, if you want to do images and do image sequences, that's probably the best way to do it. It's also the most robust, meaning like go back and keep your, like if your render crashes, you can go back and start it over again. It's kind of like rendering a animation regular in Blender, but you can certainly use things like FFmpeg encoding, and right now it's Matroska. I don't know how to say that, but MPEG 4. All right, H.264, medium quality, good. And so there's a lot of different options you can use. In this case, it's just RGB, right? If you were doing some compositing later on, like you want to combine videos with videos, you could use QuickTime, and you could set this to the QuickTime QT one here. And you'll notice you have RGBA accessible, so you can actually do this with transparency as well. But we're going to be doing MPEG 4, H.264. Changes back to constant bitrate, but we're going to go back to medium quality, set good, key intervals. Okay. Audio codec right now is set to none, so make sure you're, usually by default it's set, but maybe just doing an AAC, nothing special here, something like that. Okay. And all right. Last but not least, the frame rate here. I want to talk about this. When you first start your project, it's going to be at 24 frames per second. If you change this and then add a clip, from what I understand, it changes the project frame rate back to whatever your clip was. And when you add a clip, and then like if your clips have different frame rates and you force this to a frame rate, you're going to have like timing issues, and then the buffer or the proxies end up acting weird for whatever reason. At least they do on my side. So just simple video editing, not going crazy with this, trying to do 60 frames per second or higher, or whatever the case, using multiple different frame rates. Just try to keep it all pretty standard at 24 or 30 or something. And then bring in the files after you've set that frame rate, and you know for sure it's going to stick there. So you might have to bring in one clip. It might change to whatever, readjust it, then bring in another clip, and then delete that original clip. And it should be set pretty well, and you shouldn't have any issues. But you might have issues with it buffering or having weird proxy issues still, so just keep that in mind. It can be a little bit tedious sometimes. It's not the best, perhaps, video editor ever, but it's usable. And you can see what we've already done. It's really not that bad, right? And so when you're trying to do just basic things, you're pretty much good to go. At this point, we can pretty much render this out. And so we're going to do that real quick here. Render animation. So Control F12, and you should be good to go. All right. And it's just going to go through this whole process real quick. It shouldn't take too long. We had a little bit of dithering issue here. So it's just, these are low quality images. They were like screenshots for the most part. So like not a dithering, like a stepping. Like I ran out of bit information in that gray area basically. And so it renders pretty fast when you're doing something real simple as well. It's really not that bad at all. And so now that that's done, go ahead and load it up and watch it. Okay. There we go. So now imagine laying layers on top of layers that are transparent, or video on top of video that's transparent. And imagine what you can do with the parallax effects and all the other fun stuff. So anyways, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this one. I hope you try out the Blender video editor. I hope they keep improving it as Blender keeps on getting more developed as it continues on. Anyways, thanks for watching the video. I'll check you guys out in the next one. All right, take care.